Hey guys, welcome to our channel. Here today we're going to be talking about a really fun deck I call Lifedrain because basically you just gain a bunch of life and in the process drain your opponent for a bunch of life, ideally 20. So this is a part of the Epic on a Budget series, so the whole deck costs less than $20. And if you click on the link in the description below, it will likely say a higher price, but that's just because it defaults to pulling from something other than TCG Player. So just change that to TCG Player, and you should see the right price. All right, so basically we have a bunch of life gain stuff, and we have ways to then drain our opponent's life whenever we gain life. So let's take a look at that. This is the main game plan. We have a couple other options for it, but basically we have 18 different things that say whenever a creature enters the battlefield under our control, we gain a life, right? So Case of the Uneaten Feast is an enchantment that has that, costs a single white mana. One nice thing is that once we have gained 5 or more life in a turn, then after that, we can just sacrifice that enchantment and we can cast any of the creature cards in our graveyard until the end of our turn, just straight from the graveyard. It's really nice. So just lets us recur stuff from the graveyard for a single turn. Then we do have Dazzling Angel, which costs 2 and a white. It's 2/3 with flying and the life gain. Whenever another creature enters under our control, Hinterland Sanctifier, single white, 1/2 creature with just that life gain trigger whenever another creature enters. And then Impassioned Order, which costs 1 and a white, and it's a 2/2 with that same ability. Life Creed Duo, 1 white for 1/2 with flying, and the life gain trigger. Okay, so just a ton of different ways of gaining life, right? When creatures enter. So, and kind of the main game plan then is to cast Marauding Blight Priest or Starscape Cleric, which both have an ability that says whenever you gain life, each opponent loses 1 life. Marauding Blight Priest is just a 2 and a black for a 3/2 with that ability. Starscape Cleric is 1 and a black for a 2/1 with flying and that ability, and it can't block. But what's really nice about Starscape Cleric is that you can pay an extra 2 and a black when you cast it, and for the Offspring ability. And if you do that, then when it enters, you create a token copy of it. That's a 1/1. Okay. So then you get 2 creatures entering the battlefield, and you get 2 copies of that effect that drains your opponent's life, which is very valuable. It speeds up the process by a lot. Because then if you have, a couple of these effects that gain you life whenever a creature enters, say you have 2, when you play a Starscape Cleric with Offspring, then you will gain 4 life, and you'll drain your opponent for 8 life, which is pretty good. Okay, so that's definitely the main game plan. Okay, and there are some supporting cards. Cat Collector is 2 and a white for a 3/2, and when it enters, you create a food token. And food tokens, you can just pay 2 and tap and sacrifice to gain 3 life. And it says whenever you gain life for the first time during each of your turns, create a 1/1 white cat creature token. So if this is just around on the battlefield whenever you gain life for the first time on one of your turns, then you get another creature token, which is nice because everything triggers off of whenever a creature enters. So you essentially get to double stuff, double the triggers when we're starting each turn, essentially. Okay. Well, hopefully we'll see how that plays out in the playtester as well, but it really does a lot to increase the consistency. It also provides chump blockers, because most of our creatures we don't actually want to block with, and most of them are very small, so they don't really do super well in combat anyway. And this just provides a cat every single turn, every single one of our turns basically, to chump block with, which is very nice. Okay, we also have removal or blink. Basically, Parting Gust costs costs white, and it's an instant. It says you can gift tapped fish. So basically, you'd say, hey, I'm going to give you a tapped fish token. It's a 1/1, or you can choose to not. If you do, then your opponent gets that tapped 1/1 blue fish token before anything else happens. If not, then they don't. And you exile target non-token creature. Importantly, this can be your own. Okay, we have lots of stuff that triggers whenever a creature enters. And so sometimes we just target our own, because if the gift wasn't promised, you return that creature to the battlefield under its owner's control with a +1/+1 counter on it at the beginning of the next end step. So if we target our own creature, then at the beginning of the next end step, it will come back, and we can, gain more life, drain our opponent's life, whatever it is, right? However, it's very nice. It's flexible in that you can use it on your opponent's creature to just get rid of it. So that in that case, you would generally give them the tapped fish token, because that's not really terribly important to us, especially considering, whatever the abilities are that we're getting rid of on the creature that we exile. Okay, so that's a very flexible card. We can use it proactively to just further our game plan, or we can use it to disrupt our opponents. Okay, so that's very valuable. Then we do like drawing extra cards, because we only have 8 copies of this drain effect, so it's nice to be able to draw more cards to hopefully draw into one of those, or just have other ways of winning the game. And of course, with all these little creatures, many of them have flying, we can just attack. And sometimes you win games just by attacking. Gaining as much life as you're going to be gaining with this deck, then you can often kind of ignore your opponent's attacks, or just chump block with a cat or something while you just swing in over the top. And that can win you games. But having some other finishers is kind of nice too, especially when they are also helping us with our main game plan. So Exemplar of Light is one of those. You have a couple copies. 4 mana, 3/3 with flying. So it costs 2 white. And whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. So it's a super nice ability. There are some other creatures with that ability, like a Johnny's Pridemate. That's a slightly famous one. However, in the case of a Johnny's Pridemate, that's really its only ability. It has no form of evasion whatsoever, and so generally it just gets chump blocked. This guy, though, he has flying, so he often does not get chump blocked. Or our opponent just has fewer things to chump block with. Okay, so this can get very large fairly quickly and swing in for a lot of damage, and oftentimes it just can't be blocked. So that's pretty good. We'd be tempted to play just for that, but the really, really cool thing is that whenever you put 1 or more +1/+1 counters on this creature, you draw a card, and this ability triggers only once each turn. So you should be drawing another card basically every turn with that, which is very nice. It gets us, keeps up the flow of creatures fairly well, especially because a lot of our creatures are, fairly low mana cost, especially some of them. It's nice to just have some extra cards. And like I said, it helps us get closer to these drain cards. Okay. Also, importantly, if you use Parting Gust on an Exemplar of Light, when it comes back, Parting Gust will give it a +1/+1 counter, and that will draw you a card. So that's nice. Useful if your opponent plays a board wipe or something, and you just use Parting Gust to save it, since it comes back at the end of the end of the turn, basically. Then you can save a creature from the board wipe, and then you'll just draw a card again from an Exemplar of Light. All right, and then our last one here, our non-land cards, is Amalia Benavides Aguirre. Okay, so this one, it costs white-black for 2/2. As ward, pay 3 life. So that means that if our opponent targets it with anything, it gets countered unless they pay 3 life. So it's convenient. And whenever you gain life, Amalia Benavides Aguirre explores. Then destroy all the creatures if its power is exactly 20. Now, exploring means that you reveal the top card of your library, and if it's a land card, you put it into your hand. And if it's not a land card, then you put a +1/+1 counter on the creature that's exploring, and you decide whether you want to leave it on top of your library or you want to put it into your graveyard. Okay, so that's pretty effective at digging us towards whatever we're needing in many cases. So if we have, a few of these, you gain a life whenever another creature enters the battlefield effects, we drop Amalia, we can dig like 3 or 4 cards deep fairly quickly. For one of these cards over here, the life drain cards, okay? Or whatever it is we're needing, right? And we'll just pick up extra lands along the way, which is very nice. All right. Additionally, if you do happen to get it up to 20, so that would be, putting 18 +1/+1 counters on it, basically because we don't have any other ways of increasing its power in this deck, then she just destroys all of the creatures, and then you can just swing in with her for 20, which will end most games fairly quickly. Okay, so that's pretty nice. All right, so for lands, we have swamps, a couple of those. We have Scoured Barrens. I generally don't love playing tapped lands, but in this case, it actually works out pretty well because we like gaining life in this deck. We have abilities to trigger whenever we gain life, so the cost of playing a tapped land is really greatly diminished by the synergies from it, right? Because that will also trigger Amalia to explore, for example, or Exemplar of Light to draw us a card. So that's pretty nice. Restless Fortress is actually another tapped land, but it synergizes very, very well with our deck because we can pay 2 white and a black to make it a 1/4 creature until end of turn. And whenever it attacks, defending player loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. So that just fits right in with our game plan, right? So that's why we're running 4 of those. Have 10 planes because most of our stuff is white, right? We only really need a little bit of black, though we do like having double black for Offspring for Starscape Cleric. And then Caves of Koilos. This doesn't necessarily synergize with our deck, but it's a really good budget dual land that enters untapped. It just taps for colorless, or you can tap it for white or black and it deals 1 damage to you. All right, in this deck, we're getting enough life that generally doesn't cause a big problem. We also have enough generic mana costs that we can often just tap it for colorless, and that's just fine. All right, so let's go to the playtester and see how it goes. All right, so this one is not a hand I would personally keep. Yes, it could do cool stuff, but you need to draw pretty well, right? This one definitely has more stuff in it, but there's not really any way of gaining life anytime soon, so I would actually mulligan this. All right, this is looking much better. Okay, we don't really have to have a way to finish the game off in our opening hand. We just need to start basically gaining life and whatnot. That'll take us a long ways. So let's keep this. And we have a couple of 1 mana plays and a couple of 2 mana plays. So I'll just start out with a tap land. Turn 2, then we can play a Case of the Uneaten Feast and a Hinterland Sanctifier. I like to play Case of the Uneaten Feast first whenever possible because creatures will trigger its ability, but it won't trigger these other abilities because it's not a creature that's entering. Okay, so then when we play that, we'll gain 1 life. I'll pass. Okay, so at this point, we could play Restless Fortress, which would be pretty good. We could play a 2-mana creature, but I would really like to get Cat Collector online. So we're going to play that. We're going to gain 2 life, and then we're going to get a cat token, and we're going to get 2 more life. Okay, so we just gained 4 life there. Alrighty, and then we get to pass turn. All right, now here we have another Rambat. We'll play that land tapped, and we'll play Lifedrain Duo. When we do that, then we're going to gain 2 life for this and this, and then we're going to get another cat token. Okay, so then we're going to gain 3 life, so a total of 5 life, because this Lifedrain Duo sees the cat come in. So we're going to gain 5 life. And then, oh, sorry, we didn't have the lands for that. Okay, and now we'll play the Hinterland Sanctifier. And then we'll gain 3 more life from that. Okay. All right, so then next turn, oh, perfect. So here we have one of our life drain cards. Okay, so it says whenever you gain life, each opponent loses 1 life. We'll play that. Okay, and what happens then is we'll gain 1, 2, 3, 4 life, and then a cat. We'll make a cat, and then we'll gain 4 more life. Okay, so we'll gain 8 life, and whenever we gain life, each opponent loses 1. So we will drain our opponent for 8. Okay, and now, oh, look, we have another one. So we'll actually just cast that. And this time we'll drain our opponent for 16, because now we have 2 Marauding Blight Priests. So we'll do the exact same thing of gaining 8 life, but since we have 2 Marauding Blight Priests, we'll just drain them for 16, and that takes care of it. Okay. Then we would be at 57. Okay. So, you know, we had all these cats. We could have chump blocked. We also just gained 37 life that game. So obviously it might have taken us slightly longer if we had something removed, right? Like if our opponent had removed some of our creatures or whatever. But we weren't out of cards yet. We also have these Restless Fortresses that would have continued delivering value. We also had Case of the Uneaten Feast to be able to recur stuff from our graveyard as long as we'd at some point gained 5 more life in a turn. So we had a number of ways of pushing damage through and whatnot, or life loss through. That's basically the deck. That worked out, and that was our main game plan. We just did it. We didn't even need to draw extra cards, especially because our opponent wasn't removing our stuff very fast. That's a good thing about gold fishing. But these definitely come in handy when your opponent starts removing stuff and you need more cards. Basically, it's a very resilient deck just because it gains so much life, and it has a number of ways of just winning the game, whether it's through damage, swinging with stuff, with a bunch of little creatures, swinging with big things, or destroying everything and then swinging with a big thing, or honestly just never attacking at all and just draining your opponent for 20 damage. It's really pretty nice, pretty flexible and fun. So I hope you enjoyed too. Let me know how it goes for you if you build it, and definitely if you enjoyed this video, subscribe and you'll see more videos, budget deck lists and whatnot, as well as some deck building videos and whatnot. So have a great day. Ciao.